The Boeing 737 MAX is a narrow-body aircraft series designed and produced by Boeing Commercial Airplanes as the fourth generation of the Boeing 737, succeeding the Boeing 737 Next Generation (NG). The new 737 series was launched on August 30, 2011. It had performed its first flight on January 29, 2016. The new series gained FAA certification on March 8, 2017. The first delivery was a MAX 8 on May 6, 2017 to Malindo Air, which placed the aircraft into service on May 22, 2017. The 737 MAX is based on earlier 737 designs. It is re-engined with more efficient CFM International LEAP-1B engines, aerodynamic improvements, including distinctive split-tip winglets, and airframe modifications. The 737 MAX series has been offered in four variants, typically offering 138 to 230 seats and a 3,215 to 3,825 nautical miles, 5,954 to 7,084 kilometers, range. The 737 MAX 7, MAX 8, and MAX 9 are intended to replace the 737-700, -800, and -900, respectively. Additional length is offered with a further stretched 737 MAX 10. As of January 2019, the Boeing 737 MAX has received 5,011 firm orders and delivered 350. Following two fatal crashes of MAX 8 aircraft in October 2018 and March 2019, regulatory authorities around the world grounded the aircraft series for an indefinite time period, as of March 13, 2019. In 2006, Boeing started considering the replacement of the 737 with a clean sheet design that could follow the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. In June 2010, a decision on this replacement was postponed into 2011. On December 1, 2010, Boeing's competitor, Airbus, launched the Airbus A320neo family to improve fuel burn and operating efficiency with new engines, the CFM International LEAP and Pratt & Whitney PW1000G. In February 2011, Boeing CEO, Jim McNerney maintained "We're going to do a new airplane." At the March 2011 ISTAT conference, BCA President, James Albaugh was not sure about a 737 re-engine, like Boeing CFO, James A. Bell stated at the J.P. Morgan Aviation, Transportation and Defense Conference the same month. The A320neo gathered 667 commitments at the June 2011 Paris Air Show for a backlog of 1,029 units since its launch, setting an order record for a new commercial airliner. On July 20, 2011, American Airlines announced an order for 460 narrow-body jets including 130 A320ceos and 130 A320neos, and intended to order 100 re-engined 737s with CFM LEAPs, pending Boeing confirmation. The order broke Boeing's monopoly with the airline and forced Boeing into a re-engined 737. As this sale included a most favored customer clause, Airbus has to refund any difference to American if it sells to another airline at a lower price, so the European manufacturer cannot give a competitive price to competitor United Airlines, leaving it to a Boeing skewed fleet. On August 30, 2011, Boeing's board of directors approved the launch of the re-engined 737, expecting a fuel burn 16% lower than the Airbus A320ceo and 4% lower than the A320neo. Studies for additional drag reduction were performed during 2011, including revised tail cone, natural laminar flow nacelle, and hybrid laminar flow vertical stabilizer. Boeing abandoned the development of a new design. Boeing expects the 737 MAX to meet or exceed the range of the Airbus A320neo. Firm configuration for the 737 MAX was scheduled for 2013. In March 2010, the estimated cost to re-engine the 737 according to Mike Baer, Boeing Commercial Airplanes Vice President of Business Strategy and Marketing, would be $2 to $3 billion including the CFM engine development. During Boeing's Q2 2011 earnings call, former CFO James Bell said the development cost for the airframe only would be 10 to 15% of the cost of a new program estimated at $10 to $12 billion at the time. Bernstein Research predicted in January 2012 that this cost would be twice that of the Airbus A320neo. Fuel consumption is reduced by 14% from the 737NG. In November 2014, Boeing Chief Executive Officer Jim McNerney said the 737 will be replaced by a new airplane by 2030, slightly bigger and with new engines but keeping its general configuration, probably a composite airplane. On August 13, 2015, the first 737 MAX fuselage completed assembly at Spirit AeroSystems in Wichita, Kansas, for a test aircraft that would eventually be delivered to launch customer Southwest Airlines. On December 8, 2015, the first 737 MAX, a MAX 8 named Spirit of Renton, was rolled out at the Boeing Renton factory. Because GKN could not produce the titanium honeycomb inner walls for the thrust reversers quickly enough, Boeing switched to a composite part produced by Spirit to deliver 47 MAXs per month in 2017. Spirit supplies 69% of the 737 airframe, including the fuselage, thrust reverser, engine, pylons, nacelles, and wing leading edges. A new spar assembly line with robotic drilling machines should increase throughput by 33%. The electro-impact automated panel assembly line sped up the wing lower skin assembly by 35%. Boeing planned to increase its 737 MAX monthly production rate from 42 planes in 2017 to 57 planes by 2019. The rate increase strains the production, and by August 2018, over 40 unfinished jets were parked in Renton, awaiting parts or engine installation, as CFM engines and Spirit fuselages were delivered late. After parked airplanes peaked at 53 at the beginning of September, Boeing reduced this by 9 the following month, as deliveries rose to 61 from 29 in July and 48 in August. In collaboration with Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China Limited, Boeing has built a completion and delivery facility for the 737 MAX in Zhoushan, China. This facility initially handles interior finishing only, but will subsequently be expanded to include paintwork. The first aircraft was delivered from the facility to Air China on December 15, 2018. The first flight took place on January 29, 2016, nearly 49 years after the maiden flight of the 737, a 737-100, on April 9, 1967. The first MAX 8, 1A001, was used for aerodynamic trials, flutter testing, stability and control, and takeoff performance data verification, before it was modified for an operator and delivered. 1A002 was used for performance and engine testing, climb and landing performance, crosswind, noise, cold weather, high altitude, fuel burn and water ingestion. Aircraft systems including Autoland were tested with 1A003. 1A004, with an airliner layout, flew function and reliability certification for 300 hours with a light flight test instrumentation. The 737 MAX gained FAA certification on March 8, 2017. It was approved by the EASA on March 27, 2017. After completing 2,000 test flight hours and 180-minute ETOPS testing requiring 3,000 simulated flight cycles in April 2017, CFM International notified Boeing of a possible manufacturing quality issue with low-pressure turbine (LPT) discs in LEAP-1B engines. Boeing suspended 737 MAX flights on May 4, and resumed flights on May 12. The first delivery was a MAX 8, handed over to Malindo Air, a subsidiary of Lion Air, on May 16, 2017. It entered service on May 22. Norwegian Air subsidiary Norwegian Air International was the second airline to put a 737 MAX into service, when it performed its first transatlantic flight with a MAX 8 named Sir Freddie Laker on July 15, 2017 between Edinburgh Airport in Scotland and Bradley International Airport in the U.S. state of Connecticut, followed by a second rotation from Edinburgh to Stewart Airport, New York. Boeing aims to match the 99.7% dispatch reliability of the NG. Southwest Airlines, the launch customer, took delivery of its first 737 MAX on August 29, 2017. Boeing planned to deliver at least 50 to 75 aircraft in 2017, 10 to 15% of the more than 500 737s to be delivered in the year. After 1 year of service, 130 have been delivered to 28 customers, logging over 41,000 flights and 118,000 hours and flying over 6.5 million passengers. Fly Dubai observed 15% more efficiency than the NG, more than the 14% promised, and dependability reached 99.4%. Long routes include 24 over 2,500 nautical miles, 4,630 kilometers, including a daily Aerolíneas Argentinas service from Buenos Aires to Punta Cana over 3,252 nautical miles, 6,023 kilometers. In mid-2011, the objective was to match the A320neo 15% fuel burn advantage, but the initial reduction was 10 to 12%, it was later enhanced to 14.5%. The fan was widened from 61 inches to 69.4 inches by raising the nose gear and placing the engine higher and forward. The split winglet added 1 to 1.5%, a relofted tail cone 1% more, and electronically controlling the bleed air system improves efficiency. In 2011, the LEAP-1B was initially 10 to 12% more efficient than the previous 156 cm, 61 in CFM 56-7B of the 737NG. The 18-blade, woven, carbon fiber fan enables a 9-to-1 bypass ratio, up from 5.1 to 1 with the previous 24-blade titanium fan, for a 40% smaller noise footprint. The CFM 56 bypass ranges from 5.1 to 1 to 5.5 to 1. The two-shaft design has a low-pressure section comprising the fan and 3 booster stages driven by 5 axial turbine stages and a high-pressure section with a 10-stage axial compressor driven by a 2-stage turbine. The 41-to-1 overall pressure ratio, increased from 28 to 1, and advanced hot section materials enabling higher operating temperatures permit a 15% reduction in thrust-specific fuel consumption, TSFC, along with 20% lower carbon emissions, 50% lower nitrogen oxide emissions, though each engine weighs 849 pounds, 385 kilograms, more at 6,129 pounds, 2,780 kilograms. In August 2011, Boeing had to choose between 66 in 168 centimeters, or 68 in 173 centimeters, fan diameters necessitating few landing gear changes to maintain a 17 in 43 centimeters ground clearance beneath the new engines. Boeing Commercial Airplanes Chief Executive Officer Jim Albaugh stated, "With a bigger fan you get more efficiency because of the bypass ratio, but also, more weight and more drag, with more airframe changes. The smaller LEAP-1B engine will weigh less and have a lower frontal area but a lower bypass ratio, leading to a higher thrust-specific fuel consumption than the 78 in 200 centimeters LEAP-1A of the A320neo." In November 2011, Boeing selected the larger fan diameter, necessitating a 6 to 8 in 150 to 200 mm longer nose landing gear. In May 2012, Boeing further enlarged the fan to 69.4 in 176 centimeters, paired with a smaller engine core within minor design changes before the mid-2013 final configuration. The nacelle features chevrons for noise reduction like the 787. A new bleed air digital regulator will improve its reliability. The larger engine is cantilevered ahead of and slightly above the wing, and the laminar flow engine nacelle lipskin is a GKN Aerospace one-piece, spun-formed aluminum sheet inspired by the 787. The new maneuvering characteristics augmentation system accommodates the forward placement of the new engines while still retaining commonality, similar flying characteristics, with the Boeing 737NG family. The split-tip wingtip device is designed to maximize lift while staying in the same ICAO aerodrome reference code letter C gates as current 737s. It traces its design to the McDonnell Douglas MD-12 1990s twin-deck concept, proposed for similar gate restrictions before the Boeing merger. It should deliver at least 1.5% improvements in fuel economy or even more if the proposed laminar flow surface treatment meets expectations. A MAX 8 with 162 passengers on a 3,000 nautical miles, 5,600 kilometers, mission will have up to a 1.8% better fuel burn than a blended winglet-equipped aircraft and even 1% over 500 nautical miles, 930 kilometers, at Mach 0.79. The new winglet is 9 feet 6 in, 2.90 meters, high. Other improvements include a recontoured tail cone, revised auxiliary power unit inlet and exhaust, aft body vortex generators removal and other small aerodynamic improvements. Aviation Partners offers a similar split-tip scimitar winglet for previous 737 NGS. It resembles a three-way hybrid between a blended winglet, wingtip fence, and raked wingtip. The 8 in 20 cm, taller nose gear strut keeps the same 17 in, 43 cm, ground clearance of the engine nacelles. New struts and nacelles for the heavier engines add bulk, the main, landing gear and supporting structure are beefier, and fuselage skins are thicker in some places for a 6,500 pounds, 2,900 kilograms, increase to the MAX 8's empty aircraft weight. To preserve fuel and payload capacity, its maximum takeoff weight is 7,000 pounds, 3,200 kilograms, heavier. Rockwell Collins will supply four 15.1-inch, 380 mm, landscape liquid crystal displays, LCD, as used on the 787 Dreamliner, to improve pilots' situational awareness and efficiency. Boeing plans no major modifications for the 737 MAX flight deck, as it wants to maintain commonality with the 737 Next Generation family. Boeing Commercial Airplanes CEO Jim Mulbaugh said in 2011 that adding more fly-by-wire control systems would be very minimal. Most of the systems are carried from the 737 NG for a short differences training course to upgrade flight crews. The 737 MAX extended spoilers are fly-by-wire controlled. As production standard, the 737 MAX will feature the Boeing Sky interior with overhead bins and LED lighting based on the Boeing 787's interior. The Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, MCAS, was developed for the 737 MAX to prevent stalls in flaps retracted, low-speed, nose-up flight. The MCAS uses airspeed and other sensor data to compute when a dangerous condition has developed and then trims the aircraft nose down. Boeing 737 MAX aircraft have engines mounted higher and further forward than previous 737 models. According to the air current, the relocated engines and the refined nacelle shape cause an upward pitching moment. In order to pass Part 25 certification requirements, Boeing employed the MCAS to automatically apply nose-down trim when the aircraft is in steep turns or in low-speed, flaps retracted flight. When the angle of attack exceeds a limit that depends on airspeed and altitude, the system activates without notice to the pilot. The system is deactivated when a pilot trims the aircraft using a switch on the yoke. The system is sensitive to failure of angle of attack sensors mounted outside the aircraft. Following the crash of Lion Air Flight 610 soon after takeoff, Boeing introduced a software upgrade that notifies pilots of a sensor failure. It will be deployed to aircraft operators in the coming weeks, the company said on March 11, 2019. The 737-700, -800 and 900 are, the most widespread versions of the previous 737 NG, are replaced by the 737 MAX 7, MAX 8 and MAX 9, respectively, FAA Type Certificate, 737-7, -8, and -9. The 737 MAX 8 entered service in May 2017, and the MAX 9 entered service in March 2018. The MAX 7 and MAX 200 are expected to enter service in 2019, and the MAX 10 in 2020. Boeing forecasts that 60 to 65% of demand for the airliner will be for the 737 MAX 8 variant, 20 to 25% for the MAX 9 and MAX 10, and 10% for the MAX 7. Originally based on the 737-700, Boeing announced the redesign of the MAX 7 derived from the MAX 8 at the July 2016 Farnborough Air Show, accommodating two more seat rows than the 737-700 for 138 seats, up 12 seats. The redesign uses the 737-8 wing and landing gear, a pair of over-wing exits rather than the single-door configuration, a 46-inch longer aft fuselage and a 30-inch longer forward fuselage, structural re-gauging and strengthening, and systems and interior modifications to accommodate the longer length. It is to fly 1,000 nautical miles, 1,900 kilometers, farther than the -700 with 18% lower fuel costs per seat. Boeing predicts the MAX 7 to carry 12 more passengers 400 nautical miles, 740 kilometers, farther than A319neo with 7% lower operating costs per seat. Boeing plans to improve its range from 3,850 nautical miles, 4,430 miles, 7,130 kilometers, to 3,950 nautical miles, 4,505 miles, 7,251 kilometers, after 2021. Production on the first 65 feet, 19.8 meters, long wing spar for the 737-7 began in October 2017. Assembly of the first flight test aircraft began on November 22, 2017 and was rolled out of the factory on February 5, 2018. The MAX 7 took off for its first flight on March 16, 2018 from the factory in Renton, Washington and flew for 3 hours over Washington state. It reached 250 knots, 460 km per hour, and 25,000 feet, 7,600 meters, performed a low approach, systems checks and an in-flight engine restart, and landed in Moses Lake, Washington, Boeing's Flight Test Center. Entry into service with launch operator Southwest Airlines was expected in January 2019, but the airline deferred these orders until 2023 to 2024. Entry into service with WestJet is to follow 5 deliveries of 5 airplane expected in 2019. Customers for the aircraft include Southwest Airlines, 30, WestJet, 23, Canada Jetlines, 5, and ILFC Aviation, 5. The MAX 7 seems to have fewer than 100 orders among over 4,300 MAX total sales. The first variant developed in the 737 MAX series, the MAX 8 will replace the 737-800 with a longer fuselage than the MAX 7. Boeing plans to improve its range from 3,550 nautical miles, 4,045 miles, 6,510 kilometers, to 3,610 nautical miles, 4,150 miles, 6,690 kilometers, after 2021. On July 23, 2013, Boeing completed the firm configuration for the 737 MAX 8. The MAX 8 has a lower empty weight and higher maximum takeoff weight than the A320neo and cruise at 140,500 pounds, 63,700 kilograms. It burns 4,460 pounds, 2,020 kilograms, per hour at Mach 0.78, 450 knots, 833 kilometers per hour, and FL 350, at a suboptimal flight level and forward center of mass. The Boeing 737 MAX 8 completed its first flight testing in La Paz, Bolivia. The 13,300-foot altitude at El Alto International Airport tested the MAX's capability to take off and land at high altitudes. Its first commercial flight was operated by Malindo Air on May 22, 2017 between Kuala Lumpur and Singapore as Flight OD-803. In early 2017, a new -8 was valued at $52.85 million, rising to below $54.5 million by mid-2018. In September 2014, Boeing launched a high-density version of the 737 MAX 8, the 737 MAX 200, named for seating for up to 200 passengers in a single-class high-density configuration with slimline seats. An extra exit door is required because of the higher passenger capacity. Boeing states that this version will be 20% more cost-efficient per seat than current 737 models, and will be the most efficient narrow-body on the market when delivered, including 5% lower operating costs than the 737 MAX 8. 3 of 8 galley trolleys are removed to accommodate more passenger space. A 100-aircraft order with Ryanair was completed on December 1, 2014. In mid-November 2018, the first of the 135 ordered by Ryanair rolled out with an additional set of exit doors. It was first flown from Renton on January 13, 2019, and is due to enter service in April 2019. Ryanair expects to receive 4 further MAX 200s in 2019. Airlines have been shown a 737-8ERX concept based on the 737 MAX 8 with a higher 194,700 pounds, 88.3 tons, maximum takeoff weight using wings, landing gear and central section from the MAX 9 to provide a longer range of 4,000 nautical miles, 4,600 miles, 7,400 kilometers, with seating for 150, closer to the Airbus A321LR. The 737 MAX 9 will replace the 737-900 and has a longer fuselage than the MAX 8. Boeing plans to improve its range from 3,510 nautical miles, 4,040 miles, 6,500 kilometers, to 3,605 nautical miles, 4,149 miles, 6,676 kilometers, after 2021. Lion Air is the launch customer with an order for 201 in February 2012. It made its rollout on March 7, 2017, and first flight on April 13, 2017. It took off from Renton Municipal Airport and landed at Boeing Field after a 2 hours 42 minutes flight. It was presented at the 2017 Paris Air Show. Boeing 737-9 flight tests were scheduled to run through 2017, with 30% of the -8 tests repeated. Aircraft 1001 was used for autoland, avionics, flutter, and mostly stability and control trials, while 1002 was used for environment control system testing. It was certified by February 2018. Asian low-cost carrier Lion Air Group took delivery of the first on March 21, 2018 before entering service with Thai Lion Air. As the competing A321neo attracts more orders, the value of 737-9 is the same as a 2018 737-8 at $53 million. To compete with the Airbus A321neo, loyal customers such as Korean Air and United Airlines pressed Boeing to develop a larger variant than the MAX 9, of which Boeing revealed studies in early 2016. As the A321neo had outsold the MAX 9 5-1, the proposed MAX 10 included a larger engine, stronger wing, and telescoping landing gear in mid-2016. In September 2016, it was reported that the variant would be simpler and lower risk with a modest stretch of 6 to 7 feet, 1.83 to 2.13 meters, for a length of 143 to 144 feet, 43.6 to 43.9 meters, seating 12 to 18 more passengers for 192 to 198 in a dual-class layout or 226 to 232 for a single class, needing an uprated 31,000 lbf, 140 kilonewtons CFM LEAP-1B that could be available by 2019 or 2020 and would likely require a landing gear modification to move the rotation point slightly aft. In October 2016, Boeing's board granted authority to offer the stretched variant with 2 extra fuselage sections forward and aft with a 3,100 nautical miles, 3,600 miles, 5,700 kilometers, range reduced from 3,300 nautical miles, 3,800 miles, 6,100 kilometers, of the -9. In early 2017, Boeing showed a 66 in 1.7 meters, stretch to 143 feet, 44 meters, enabling seating for 230 in a single class or 189 in two-class capacity, compared to 193 in two-class seating for the A321neo. The modest stretch of the MAX 10 enables the aircraft to retain the existing wing and CFM LEAP-1B engine from the MAX 9 with a trailing link main landing gear as the only major change. Boeing 737 MAX Vice President and General Manager Keith Leverkuhn says the design has to be frozen in 2018 for a 2020 introduction. Boeing hopes that 737-900 operators and 737 MAX 9 customers like United Airlines, Delta Air Lines, Alaska Airlines, Air Canada, Lion Air, and Chinese Airlines will be interested in the new variant. Boeing predicts a 5% lower trip cost and seat cost compared to the A321neo. Air Lease Corporation wants it a year sooner. Its CEO John Plugger stated it would have been better to get the first airplane in March 2019. But I don't think that's possible. AerCap CEO Angus Kelly is cautious and said the -9 and -10 will cannibalize each other. The MAX 10 was launched on June 19, 2017, with 240 orders and commitments from more than 10 customers. United Airlines will be the largest 737 MAX 10 customer, converting 100 of their 161 orders for the MAX 9 into orders for the MAX 10. Boeing ended the 2017 Paris Air Show with 361 orders and commitments, including 214 conversions, from 16 customers, including 50 orders from Lion Air. The variant configuration was firmed up by February 2018, and by mid-2018, the critical design review was completed. As of August 2018, assembly was underway with the first flight planned for late 2019. The semi-levered landing gear design has a telescoping Oleon pneumatic strut with a down-swinging lever to permit a 9.5 inches, 24 centimeters, taller gear. Driven by the existing retraction system, a shrink-link mechanical linkage mechanism at the top of the leg, inspired by carrier aircraft designs, allows the gear to be drawn in and shortened while being retracted into existing wheel well. Entry into service is slated for July 2020. The BBJ MAX 8 and BBJ MAX 9 are proposed business jet variants of the Boeing 737 MAX 8 and 9 with new CFM LEAP-1B engines and advanced winglets providing 13% better fuel burn than the Boeing Business Jet. The BBJ MAX 8 will have a 6,325 nautical miles, 11,710 kilometers, range and the BBJ MAX 9 a 6,255 nautical miles, 11,580 kilometers, range. The BBJ MAX 7 was unveiled in October 2016 with a 7,000 nautical miles, 12,960 kilometers, range and 10% lower operating costs than the original BBJ while being larger. The MAX BBJ-8 first flew on April 16, 2018, before delivery later the same year, and will have a range of 6,640 nautical miles, 12,300 kilometers, with an auxiliary fuel tank. Initially, the customers for the 737 MAX were not disclosed, except for American Airlines. On November 17, 2011, Boeing released the names of two other customers: Lion Air and SMBC Aviation Capital. At that time, Boeing reported 700 commitments from 9 customers for the 737 MAX. On December 13, 2011, Southwest Airlines ordered 150 737 MAX aircraft with 150 options. By December 2011, Boeing had 948 commitments and firm orders from 13 customers for the 737 MAX. On September 8, 2014, Ryanair signed an agreement with Boeing to purchase up to 200 new Boeing 737 MAX 200 Gamechanger aircraft, comprising 100 firm orders and 100 options. In January 2017, aircraft leasing company MCAS ordered 75 more 737 MAX 8 airliners. As of January 2019, Boeing had 5,011 firm orders from 78 identified customers for the 737 MAX. The top 3 identified airline customers for the 737 MAX are Southwest Airlines with 280 orders, Flydubai with 251 orders, and Lion Air with 251 orders. The first new series aircraft, a MAX 8, was delivered to Malindo Air on May 16, 2017. As of January 31, 2019. Cumulative Boeing 737 MAX orders and deliveries. Orders. Deliveries. As of January 31, 2019. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610, 737 MAX 8 registration Park LQP, crashed into the Java Sea 13 minutes after takeoff from Soekarno-Hatta International Airport, Jakarta, Indonesia. The flight was a scheduled domestic flight to Depati Amir Airport, Pangkal Pinang, Indonesia. All 189 on board died. This was the first fatal aviation accident and first hull loss of a 737 MAX. The aircraft had been delivered to Lion Air 2 months earlier. Following the Lion Air crash, Boeing issued an operational manual guidance, advising airlines how to address erroneous cockpit readings. The accident is under investigation, with the final report expected to be released between August and September 2019. On December 14, 2018, Norwegian Airlines Flight DY1933, 737 MAX 8 registration lane BKE, on a flight from Dubai, UAE to Oslo, Norway, was forced to make an emergency landing in Shiraz, Iran after a failure was reported in its left engine. On March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, 737 MAX 8 registration ETAVJ, crashed approximately 6 minutes after takeoff from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, on a scheduled flight to Nairobi, Kenya, killing all 149 passengers and 8 crew members on board. The aircraft was 4 months old at the time. The cause of the crash is unclear as of March 10, 2019, though the aircraft's vertical speed after takeoff was reported to be unstable. On March 11, 2019, in response to the Lion Air and Ethiopian Airlines accidents, China was the first country to order all 96 of its 737 MAX aircraft grounded. In the days following the crash, airlines and authorities around the world suspended the operation of Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft, or in many cases all 737 MAX variants, one after another, contrasting with the usual coordinated approach. On March 13, 2019, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, the original certifying authority, became the last in the world to ground the aircraft, reversing its previous stance. Boeing recommended the grounding to the FAA. As of March 14, 2019, production of new MAX aircraft continued, though deliveries were suspended. The 737 MAX's Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, MCAS, implicated for reacting to faulty angle of attack readings in the Lion Air accident, came under renewed scrutiny due to the apparent similarity of the Ethiopian Airlines crash. Previous to the Lion Air crash, some pilots flying the 737 MAX were not trained on the MCAS and were not aware of its installation. When they did learn of the system after the Lion Air crash, American pilots were deeply disturbed and concerned over the fact that, a system that automatically takes over one of the flight controls in the air during a critical time, We weren't even aware that it existed, according to APA spokesman Dennis Tudger. On November 6, 2018, in response to the Lion Air Flight 610 crash, Boeing issued an operations manual bulletin warning pilots that the angle of attack sensor could produce erroneous signals, causing the MCAS system to put the plane in a steep dive, and re-emphasizing the procedures for disengaging the MCAS system in such cases. On November 7, 2018, the FAA issued an Emergency Airworthiness Directive, 2018-2351, for MAX runaway stabilizer procedure directing operators to existing flight crew procedures to address circumstances involving erroneous angle of attack sensor information. After the crash of Flight ET-302, Ethiopian Airlines spokesman Bineam Dempsey said in an interview that the procedures for disabling the MCAS system were then incorporated into pilot training. All the pilots flying the MAX received the training after the Indonesia crash, he said. There was a directive by Boeing, so they took that training. On March 11, Boeing issued a statement saying that pilots can always use trim to override the flight control law, and that both the Flight Crew Operations Manual and the November 6 Bulletin detail procedures for handling incorrect angle of attack readings. In the 737 Flight Crew Operations Manual Quick Reference Handbook, the trim instructions are under the MAX 8 aircraft runaway stabilizer checklist and filed under additional information. Based on satellite tracking data, aviation experts believe the MCAS system may have been deployed erroneously during both crashes. On March 12, Boeing announced that it had been working on a flight control software upgrade for the 737 MAX fleet, partly in response to the Lion Air crash, that includes updates to the MCAS flight control law, pilot displays, operation manuals and crew training. The upgrade is to be deployed in the coming weeks, and is expected to be made mandatory by April by an FAA Airworthiness Directive. On March 13, 2019, it emerged that pilots on at least two 2018 flights in the U.S. filed safety concerns after the nose of a 737 MAX tilted down suddenly when they engaged the autopilot. In response, the FAA made a statement. Some of the reports reference possible issues with the autopilot/auto throttle, which is a separate system from MCAS, and/or acknowledge the problems could have been due to pilot error. MCAS only activates if the autopilot is turned off. Boeing had advised pilots to disengage autopilot in nose-down incidents, though MCAS initiates nose-down in response to stall incidents. A stabilizer trim jack screw found in the wreckage of Ethiopian Flight 302 was set for nosedive position. Related development: Boeing 737 Next Generation Boeing Business Jet. Aircraft of comparable role, configuration and era. Airbus A220-300, originally developed as Bombardier C-Series. Airbus A320neo family, Comac C919. Irkut MC21.